Our gospel was long, but it was also very rich, right? Rich with a lot of ideas that we really have to wonder about. Let's start with Jesus. In today's story, Jesus, who was a Jewish man, approached a woman he didn't know in a culture where men did not speak to women unless they were family members. Jesus broke the rule and spoke to her. Not only was she a woman, she was a Samaritan, and she was a descendant of the 10 northern tribes who had built a temple on Mount Gerizim in the north. The Jews, on the other hand, came from the 2 southern tribes who had built their temple on Mount Zion in Jerusalem. The Jews hated the Samaritans. The Samaritans hated the Jews. I don't know which one hated who first, but as usually happens, if somebody hates you, you hate them back. Each group hated each other. The 2 groups came from the same family. They were descendants of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. But over the centuries, they had come to worship God differently. They worshiped God on different mountains. They both used the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, but the Samaritans used only the Torah, whereas the Jews also used the books of the writings and the prophets. Both groups thought their way was right. Both groups thought others were wrong. Both groups hated each other. So I wonder why differences like these differences between Jews and Samaritans can so often become hatred. And why does this hatred continue through generation after generation after generation? When Jesus asked for some water, the woman knew full well that he, a man and a Jew, should not be talking to her, a woman and a Samaritan. The conversation began with Jesus wanting a drink. But after that, the conversation became one of the strangest conversations I've ever read about. The woman challenged him, a Jewish man, asking her, a Samaritan woman, for a drink of water. And Jesus said, "Well, I could have given you living water." The Samaritan woman said, "Where's your bucket? And oh, hey, the well is deep. Who are you kidding?" Jesus' promise of living water seems to have led Jesus suddenly to realize the conversation was way inappropriate for a Jewish man to be having with a Samaritan woman, because he backtracked and told her to call her husband. This led to the woman confessing her transgressions, 5 husbands, but oddly enough, it led the 2 of them into a theological discussion about which mountain they should be worshiping on. The topic ended with Jesus revealing himself to the Samaritan woman as the Messiah. That's a pretty weird conversation. But the conversion of many of the Samaritans coincided with the arrival of the disciples, and I'm not really sure whether the disciples were more incensed by Jesus talking with a woman or by his talking with a Samaritan. But when he chose to go openly against the community rules, his presence and his conversation with the Samaritan woman was a direct challenge for his disciples to examine their own prejudices. We have our own hatreds in this world. They're passed down from generation to generation. Like the woman, the Samaritan woman, we have the stories we tell ourselves about why we're right and others are wrong. The hatreds so often raise their ugly heads again and again and again. I wonder whether you have inherited prejudices from your family or your community. And I wonder if there is a way to break out of these generational cycles of hatred. I've been spending time down at the Capitol on Mondays, Along with several other clergy members from our diocese, I dress in a black cassock with my clergy collar on. I don my rainbow Episcopal shield lapel pin on the outside of my cassock and make myself a presence as the lawmakers of our state go about the business of making law for the people of Iowa. There are times when we make our voices heard either by speaking out during a committee meeting or by writing a note to a lawmaker and asking a page to take the note to the representative or to a senator. More importantly, our presence has become apparent to people, including some of the lawmakers. When we were sitting in the Senate gallery last week, one of the senators saw us and came across the chamber and up the stairs to the gallery to thank us for our presence. That senator recognized us as ones who pray for the work that they are doing, and she wanted to thank us for being there and to talk with us for a while. It is interesting to see how the simple presence of a handful of clergy in cassocks affects people in the Capitol. Some people ignore us or don't notice us, but there are other people who recognize us as a safe group to engage with in conversation. I'll give you an example. A week or two ago, we were attending a rally held by One Iowa in the Rotunda. One Iowa is a group of people who advocate for LGBTQ Iowans, and our group of 5 clergy in cassocks were standing on the edges of the protest group. We were there to demonstrate our support for the marginalized and to be present in protest of injustices. A young person walked past us and also was on the edge of this group, not really a part of it yet. And he turned back as he passed us and looked back at us curiously. He said, "Can I ask you a question?" "Of course," we replied. He paused and gestured to our cassocks and said, "Are you from some kind of," we said, "Oh, we're from the Episcopal Church." We exchanged some pleasantries, one of which was his connection to church. He came from a Pentecostal church. We told him, "Feel free to ask us anything. What do you want to know?" And still uncertainly, he asked us, "What do you think of this?" And he pointed at this crowd. We were kind of silent. I think, at least I wasn't quite sure what this referred to. So I asked, "Do you mean the group that's protesting or of the topic that they're protesting for?" And he said, "Yeah, that. The LGBTQ thing." And then we each answered him with things like, "We support them and their cause. We believe God loves us all as beloved children." The young man relaxed and began to interact with our responses, expressing his belief that God loves everyone. He said, "I think all people are deserving of love and respect." In this response, he also expressed his confusion from some churches that teach things that are not like that about that group. The conversation was good. He seemed relieved to know that there are expressly Christian people who preach a gospel of love, not of hate. And we could also see that our choice to wear cassocks made our presence known in a way that invites people to approach us. Our visits to the Capitol can leave us with all kinds of strong emotions. This week we found it frustrating to see certain bills pass out of the House or Senate. But we realized that we cannot hope to change people's minds in the short term. Our presence matters in a lot of ways, and for both the public and for the lawmakers. And somehow we feel like we're supposed to be there. As for the generational hatred, I think that Jesus converted people by loving them, by being present to them, by listening to them. We see that love in his interactions with the Samaritan woman.